What's going on? Jordan here, and thanks for tuning in to the Civil Tune. We have a great episode for you all today featuring Khorey Henderson, a social media strategist. We get into some thoughts about the emerging sound from the 2016 XXL list and how that has changed the discourse of music. We also get into switching from mainstream music into more of an indie music diet. And so there are definitely some interesting, noteworthy points out of this conversation. I definitely walked away from this conversation with a different perspective on music. And so please be sure to leave a like, a comment letting me know what I can do better, how I can improve, some of your thoughts, as well as definitely don't forget to check out www.theciviltune.com. That's where we post all our content as far as the podcast, new music, as well as articles and research. And without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Khorey Henderson, welcome to the Civil Tune podcast.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's just jump right on into it. Could you, give the listeners and the audience a brief description of your background? What do you do, and how did you get into music?
Right. So, my name's Khorey Henderson. I'm a social media marketer, photographer, videographer, and content creator. Really, I started playing saxophone back in the 6th grade, and I kind of just fell in love with it, and just different facets of being able to play an instrument, being able to create music, and just seeing like where it took me in my life, all the different experiences I've had because of it. It's just something that's always been a part of me. So yeah, I guess that's really where I came from.
Cool. So how did you get into the saxophone and all the other instruments that you played?
When I was in the 6th grade, like when you got into middle school, I was living in South Carolina, and like they had a thing like once you hit middle school, that's when you could like decide if you wanted to do band and stuff like that. And they had like little playing tests just to see like what you were good at. They would let you play like a little mouthpiece or whatever. And I actually wanted to play the drums, and there was like 20 people in line to play drums, and I was like, I don't want to be like the rest of them, like right. 1 out of 20, it's just kind of hard to shine right there.
Stiff, yeah.
Right. So I started looking around at some other instruments. My brother plays clarinet, so I started looking at some woodwinds. And the saxophone just looked cool. So I said, you know what? 6th grade, that's all the logic I need. Picked it up, fell in love with it. My brother was playing in high school when I was in like the 7th grade. So like I would go to like their band practices a lot, and just by being around them, I got the opportunity to like compete with them, kind of perform with them. And I followed it all the way into high school. And just stayed up to it. I played a bunch of different kinds of saxophones. I've played different instruments. I've, competed at like a state level, at a local level. I've competed at a national level. We play all different kinds of genres, all different kinds of bands. So it's really just something that's come, like really become a part of me.
Interesting. So, you're going through your schooling and you're still keeping up with your instruments and stuff. I'm just curious, has playing these instruments and traveling for these competitions, how has this all impacted you?
That's funny. When you say traveling, I say, that's kind of like the worst part of it. You just like, yeah, when you're in school and you got tests coming up and you got all these things and you got to leave on a Tuesday. And, they're saying you don't come back till like Wednesday morning at 8.
Yeah, classes are still rolling, man.
Yeah, so you get your sleep on the bus and then you,
Wow.
But really just being able to kind of perform opens your eyes up to, I guess like the scale of it, everybody like, you can be the coldest in your school, you can be the coldest in your district, you can be the coldest in like Texas, right? But like when you get to a different level and you see people who've had different kinds of experiences, who've been places, who've, I might be sitting next to somebody who's been playing sax literally since they're 3. Wow. And has just been continuing it, taking professional lessons, traveling across the world to do it. I remember one time I was competing, there was a kid who, he played in a professional like orchestral band that used to like travel to like South America.
Wow.
And I was like, you got it. Like,
Right, yeah.
yeah. So it really just gets your eyes open to like how vast the world of music is. But kind of to go back to like that school point, it kind of helps your academics, right? Because music is made up of all the essential classes that you take in school. You know, there's a science to music, there's history in music, there's math in music. You know, there's pretty much everything, right? There's a way to read music. You know, it's basically its own language. So yeah, it just kind of helps instill all of those things that you're actually learning in class in real time, and you're able to apply that to your actual everyday life.
Yeah, it's been in my experience that people who come from the marching band background or, you know, just a musical background tend to have that analytical mindset. So, you know, I notice a lot of my peers are into accounting or they're into economics or things like that just because that's how their brain works. Right. So that's interesting. So, you know, describe your taste in music.
So it's funny that you asked that because we were just listening to some old school jams.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I listen to a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Right now, I've been really rocking with just like old school jam stuff from like the 70s and 80s. A little bit of funk, a little bit of like old soul. But I always keep like, I guess, pop rap, you know, in my rotation. Definitely like the younger generation, a lot of the newer beats, newer things that you're hearing, people that you see, you know, blow up. And then I kind of like to keep a small little bit of like the mainstream stuff just to, you know, stay up to date.
Right.
You know, future album drop. So.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you get to, you know, the part about you've been listening to music in the 60s, 70s, right? Or so funny that you say that. I've been noticing that, you know, people in our cohort around ages maybe 18 to like 24 or so, there seems to be this fascination with you know, like the 70s aesthetic, right? So you see a lot of bell bottoms now, a lot of high-waisted jeans, just in the fashion terms. And so my question is, what is pulling you to the music of the 60s and the 70s? What gets you excited about that?
Right. For me, at least, the way I look at it, like, you know how they say they don't make music like that anymore?
Right.
Like, you know, a lot of old people say that, we hear that as a joke, but it's kind of true to a certain degree. With the evolution of music, there's always going to be certain things that we take for influence, for references, whatever it might be. But we kind of just like take bits and pieces and morph it into something new, right? But when you're taking bits and pieces from everything, you're also leaving out certain things. It's kind of like to your personal taste. And with that, there's like a lot of instrumentals. There's a lot of ways like songs were, you know, structured back in the day. You think about like old school R&B, and half of every song had like some kind of low voice given over a skit, right? There was always a story behind the song. You know, there was even like the visuals that they used to do with music back in the day. It's just really interesting to me. And right now, it's just something I kind of find like cool, I guess.
Wow, so that's great to hear. So I got a bit of a two-part question for you. So, in your view, what are some things that have been left from music back then, and what are some things that have been incorporated from music then into the music of today?
A lot of instrumentals, a lot of ways to like I said, structure your songs, whether it be like, I mean, of course, instrumentals, but also like how people make albums, how people make songs. You know, it's just like a different process. You're not sitting up here trying to make like a 5-minute song that has like 2 choruses, you know, 3 runs to the hook and then something back. You might just do like 1 chorus, 2 hooks, and you out. But to kind of go with that, I feel like a lot of things that kind of got left along was like the instrumentals and the ideology behind like reasoning behind creating music, you know? Whatever that reasoning might be, like that allow people to say, I'm going to make my music like this, or maybe like, you know, hey, the inspiration behind this song is this key visual that I'm gonna shoot in a music video. But we don't do those music videos anymore, so we wouldn't think like that, right? But a lot of things that do get passed on today are really like, I feel like the emotions that those music, that music kind of like left with people is like the lasting effect that people take on and tie back into their music, right? Because music is one of those things that a lot of people from our generation are looking for an emotional connection, and we're looking to like match our vibe, match our mood, so to speak. So really finding songs that can kind of like trigger those things, we're going to be naturally attached to those references a lot more. So like when you see people say like, oh, I was inspired by, you know, Michael Jackson growing up. I remember when I first started listening to music, I had an iPod, and like, yeah, bro, I'm letting my age show.
Yeah.
But I had an iPod, and my parents were like super strict, and I could only listen to Kids Bop, right? Like just Kids Bop.
Okay.
Horrible time. But the first time I could actually listen to a real artist was Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And I just listened to like, you know, his Thriller album, his Bad album, some of his old school hits. And like for me, the feeling behind being able to listen to like real music is something that I will always remember every time I hear a Michael Jackson song. You know, like to me, that holds a lot more weight than, you know, maybe somebody who's just like, oh, that's Michael Jackson.
Right.
Or I'm around a bunch of other artists. So like the way I see Michael Jackson's music is in a different light, in a different perspective. And I put it on a different pedestal because of that, rather than me just saying like, you know, in the midst of 2022, when I listen to like 30, 40, 50 different artists and a new one pops up, I'm just like, oh, okay, you're cool, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow, so you definitely hit on a couple of key points. I just want to backtrack a little bit and say that something that I have noticed is that, usually in, previous generations that, once an album is about to come out, you see the artist or the composers taking a tour around the country. They're doing all types of interviews. They're doing all these lead up singles. They'll maybe drop a video off of one song on their album, and then the final album comes out, and then usually they'll take like a break off, and that's just something that you don't really see today. Along with that Michael Jackson reference, it's funny that you mentioned that, and because my first experience of searching up music and YouTube was looking at Michael Jackson's Thriller. And I remember that was the first time I ever learned about Michael Jackson. The video obviously scared me because, I was 8 when I saw this, but it definitely had a very huge impact on me because ever since then I had followed Michael Jackson all the way up until, his passing. May he rest in peace, Michael Jackson. But yeah, so that you just kind of reminded me of that.
Like emotional attachments that music
Right, exactly. And so the emotional attachments, and that's how you view Michael Jackson on a different pedestal. And I think that is something that you can definitely see in, today's music, is that, if they say that they're influenced by a composer, Chief Keef is a really big one. You definitely see it, you definitely hear it. And so, kind of building off of that, what do you look for in new music? What gets you from, holding on to those songs that you hold close to yourself, like, Michael Jackson songs or some of those older artists? What gets you to listen, or not listen to new music, but what are you looking for when it comes to listening to new music?
For me personally, I just try to find something that you don't hear, in like somebody else, which just sounds kind of like whatever.
Okay.
But I feel like there's just like a lot of different things that go into that. I used to watch like battle rap really, really, really heavy, really heavy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that used to kill me is that during the introductions, they would have like a graphic introducing the two rappers. And they would always like list their attributes, and they would be like, oh, this person's like, if they couldn't rap, like they couldn't like rap for real, they would be like, oh, this person's aggressive. This person is like like they're legit. Like, they say like a lot of attributes to make that person just be like long story short, it'd be like whatever he says is hard, right? Or they would be like, if this person could rap, they say like lyrical. They say like, what are those things called? Like schemes. Like they can make schemes pretty well. But like those kind of attributes, I look at like artists like that, right? So there's some rappers that I say like, I don't care what they say, it's just hard, right? I was listening to this song, this dude, he said, he was like, my homies will slime you out, trust me, but don't trust me. And I was like, trust me, but don't trust me.
Right.
It hit different, so I added it to my playlist.
Yeah, I believe they call that a double entendre,
Right. So there's another song, I'm listening to like somebody like Denzel Curry, or I'm listening to like, one of my favorite rappers, Anonymous, or like, somebody more lyrical where they're talking more about like they're painting a picture with their words, or they're talking using kind of like different cadences, different flows, but really just try to find something that's unique in maybe like, like we have like the umbrella of like, flow, right? We have all the sounds that are popular that are on mainstream. We have all the stuff that you might hear because that's just whatever. But you might hear somebody come and make their own path with their own music by doing something completely unique. To me, that's what I like to hear. I try to find that thing that stands out. Not necessarily like having all those different attributes, but like if you do that one thing pretty well, that's what I look for.
And just to editorialize that for the audience, and what Khorey is getting at is that that uniqueness, that style that those composers bring to their music, that's something that I've defined as cadence, right? And so if you go to www.theciviltune.com, you can go and check out that article that I recently put out describing cadence, which is the delivery, how they're saying words, the flow that they're using, just overall connecting everything about themselves into their music, so that way you get a uniqueness, something, what people describe as new or a new sound, right? And so very noteworthy point that you just hit on. And so, given that, that is what you look for, and now that the audience has a little bit of a background on, your musical perspective, what are your thoughts on mainstream music today? Think Taylor Swift, think Drake, Future, kind of describe your perspective of what you're seeing today.
To be honest, I've fallen out of like the pop scene, so I don't really know who's popular right now. I don't know what's popular, and I'm kind of left in the dark, right? I kind of just like what I hear is like, like either like the mega songs you might hear in commercials, or like you'll see on basketball games, football games, or I'll hear stuff off TikTok, the stuff that makes it like that. But in terms of like a lot of other genres, like, I don't know. I feel like hip hop to me is like the number one genre. I don't even say it to me. I feel like hip hop is the number one genre right now, definitely dominating in terms of charts, in terms of influence, in terms of like just like celebrities that are coming out of there. I think it's interesting to kind of see like who's like what demographic, not demographic, who's like, who has the most influential sound out right now, right? Because you could say like, back when rap first started, it was on the East Coast, and then it migrated to the West Coast, and then, it came down south, and then it went to the Midwest, and then it's like all over the place. But I think like right now, I definitely feel like the South, specifically like Atlanta, kind of runs things right now in terms of like.
This podcast is being recorded on May 21st, 2022. So as you may know that currently YSL and all of Atlanta is currently under investigation because of what authorities see as a violation of the RICO charges, and so they're putting that against YSL in this current moment. And so, but just to get back to what you were saying.
Yeah, it's crazy too because they say that they're going after like Migos, they're going
Right.
after 4PF. So when you look at that and you say like who's left in Atlanta, you know, one of the largest, just one of the largest scenes in the music industry right now, but also one of the most influential.
Definitely.
You know, you say okay, like of course, you know, New York has its own sound. It's been pretty popular with the drill rap and stuff like that. Florida's popular with their own artists and their own sound. You got stuff. Of course, the West Coast is always going to be the West Coast. But just to see like an entire demographic of just like shut down like that,
Yeah.
it makes you really wonder like how I don't want to talk about it. But anyway, back to kind of like what the main question was. I feel like, you know, hip hop has really just been dominating. A lot of the stuff that you hear on mainstream feels like, how do I put this? I feel like there's a new wave coming, right? Like the same way in 2016, if you remember when like, you know, like the Uzi's generation with Lil Yachty, 21, Kodak, and all them kind of came on, and like you would hear stuff on the radio, and then they would play them, and then it would always just throw off everything else because it never fit in.
Yeah.
Right? They would play like "You Was Right" by Lil Uzi right after playing like some Kendrick, and you would be like, you know, at the time when he's talking about, you know, that was just like Love Is Rage Uzi, a completely different vibe. Everybody, I remember almost every radio host and every like big rapper had those moments to where they were like, you know, what is this? Or like, why, blah, 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 blah. But it really felt like just like a whole new wave was coming. And like right now, a lot of the sounds that you hear are just so like monotoned, or they're just so copy and paste. Like it doesn't really feel like a lot of people are really trying new stuff. It doesn't feel like a lot of people are really like producing good quality, you know, music consistently like that. It's just kind of like we hear a lot of the same old from, you know, whatever artist. It'll be like, oh, somebody blows up, well, everybody wants a song with that one person. So now in the span of 2 weeks, we done heard 40 tracks.
Yeah.
And now everybody likes the way they sound, so now they want to rap like that.
Right.
Or like,
that is true.
right? You say like, you know, New York drill has been popular because of like people like Pop Smoke, and like how his influence kind of like really brought a lot of people from social media over to that scene. And then now you got a song where Cardi B's rapping on like that. And you know, Cardi B's from New York, but you say, when have you ever done that? Yeah. You know, it's like, not to say like that's not, like you can't, but at the same time, it's like you see a lot of people flocking to like what's popular, what's easy, what's already going. And with these younger generations and people in the pop rap category, it's really just them being them. But like at the same time, because like we're looking at it like a new generation, these are like the taste makers. These are the people who shape what the new wave is going to be. These are the people who define like, you know, what cool is, right? It's not about they have to fit in. It's like I am cool, and you can choose to like my music, or you can choose to not like my music. The same way 2016 did. They came in and they said, I'm me. I'm Lil Uzi. I'm not gonna stop making my music like this. I'm Lil Yachty. I dropped Minnesota. You can hate it. I don't care. But I'm gonna still do this. And regardless of if I get on the radio, if I drop myself on SoundCloud, my people are gonna like me. So you can be the oddball out and hate if you want to, or you can get behind and just say, hey, it's here.
Yeah. And so, you know, as you were talking, in my perspective, you know, mainstream music going back into, you know, the 60s, 70s, like you were mentioning earlier on in the episode, you know, that was mainstream, but they seem to still push the boundaries a little bit. So, you know, with their vocals, or with, you know, how many people are on a song together. You know, you may have like 2 people singing the chorus, and then you have another person that's coming in and he's, you know, guiding the song with his verse and whatnot. And so, you know, fast forward and we're moving along, and now we're in the 2010s. And, you know, it switches from, you know, maybe like a wide variety of composers, and now the focus is on Young Money, right? And then, you know, throughout the 2010s, that's where you have your Drakes, your Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne and stuff. And then, like you said, when you get to that 2016, that's when Cash Money, Young Money is starting to fall off a little bit, right? You know, Lil Wayne's doing his own thing. Chris Brown's doing his own thing. You know, Drake is still taking off. Nicki Minaj is kind of simmering down a little bit. And now we're in this point in time where there's just all these different sounds again, right? There's these little niches, and you no longer have to appeal to people on an aggregate scale anymore. Like you said, I may drop my song on SoundCloud or YouTube, but my audience is going to find me. Right. You know, regardless if you accept my music or not, there's somebody that's going to find my music, they're going to promote it, they're going to push it, and now you have a career. And so, you know, with the Lil Uzis and the Juice WRLDs of the world, now we're starting to see a lot of sounds and a lot of different styles and even genres blossom now. And it's kind of unheard of if you think about it. This has some parallels to, you know, rock in the late 70s, 80s and whatnot. But you have this thing where now you're seeing these, you know, these pop stars kind of dipping in and out of rap a little bit. And so, you know, kind of going off of that, what is your perspective on the many different sounds that we have now? You know, how do you take all of that in, knowing that I can go to Lil Uzi for this, I can go to Lil Player for this, you know, I can go back to the Spinners, to Michael Jackson, you know, if I want this type of sound, you know, kind of give us your thought on that.
Really? That's a good one. The way I look at it, when it comes to like a lot of these like younger artists, a lot of people like, how do I put this? There's a lot more, I feel like there's a lot more influences and like just ways to consume music just as time has went on, whether it's like technology, you know, the internet. We grew up with social media, so now we're like at an age to where we can instantly look up something. It drops at midnight, I can listen to it at midnight. I don't have to wait till like it comes to like my Best Buy and I have to buy it in the CD, right?
You don't even necessarily have to listen to it at midnight. You probably got it from a couple months ago.
You probably did.
Last year.
Right, so it's a lot of ways to get that. But also like with the many ways to get music, there's just many more ways to listen to music, you know? With the internet, we have YouTube to where you can look up different genres and you can find these videos or you can find things like that rather than having to be like, oh, I heard this at like whatever station this was playing, or, you know, I saw this band live, so I follow their music or whatever it might be. But on that same note, because we have so many different ways to kind of consume this music, you're seeing a lot more influences from people's backgrounds. So like people who grew up listening to like rock and all these kind of different genres in that umbrella, slowly piecing it together in like their music today. Like, what was that song with Trippie Redd and Juice WRLD, Blown on My Jeans?
Mm-hmm.
No, what was it? No, I'm thinking of the other one with the guitar.
Tell Me You Love Me?
Tell Me You Love Me, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah, wow.
Where you have an instrumental where it sounds like, you know, you have an actual electric guitar as, you know, the main hook of your chorus.
Right.
Or you have just different influences where you say like a lot of New York drill is sampling like old school R&B, or it's sampling like, you know, like Hispanic music, Latin music, or you know, it's like, where did you find this, you know? A lot of different cultures, a lot of different people coming in from different backgrounds are able to like put these things on. Right. Or like you look at EA Sports UFC 4 has the song Don't Rush, right? You know, from the Don't Rush challenge. Why is that playing in UFC? Right? Yeah. But also like to kind of touch back on like what you said earlier, like how a lot of people are from pop are jumping in rap, because like hip hop is the most popular, you know, category and the most popular music out right now. It's fun for other people. It's fun for them to be like, oh, like, you know, I want to dip my toe in, or like, I want an 808. Like, you know, you don't really have those in like, you know, neo jazz, or like a lot of people just don't have those things. But yeah, just like the opportunity for other people from genres to cross over, or for people from the hip hop community to bring those genres in. It's like how you have Anderson .Paak and the Free Nationals, right? His own band, and like that kind of space, or the Silk Sonics. We're talking, but that's still in like our umbrella of music.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of things that kind of go into that.
Yeah, and like you were saying, the method in which we consume music is totally different now, and I'm interested to see in how this continues to shape music now, because the theme of this episode has been switching from the mainstream music into more niche, more indie, underground type of music, and increasingly it seems to me that if a niche gets popular enough, then you have a whole bunch of people jumping into that sound, and they're pushing the boundaries of what kind of music that they used to make. So in that Cardi B example, right, New York drill has been bubbling up for some time now, and to see Cardi B jump into this space, or to see that guy from Italy jump into this space, it is interesting. It's interesting to see that all play out. And so I'm wondering, will there be such a thing as the mainstream anymore, or not necessarily will there be a mainstream, but does this change how fast mainstream music cycles in and out?
That's a really good question. I think that's also a question, but I also think like it's gonna like redefine what we categorize as mainstream, right? Mm-hmm. Like instead of it being like a couple sounds, I think it's just gonna be like more like a category, and we can throw things in there and take things out at will, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of it just saying like, oh, like mainstream music is this person, this person, this person, because they're the hottest out right now, anytime they drop whatever, or like these are the best songs you hear on the radio. It might be like if New York drill is mainstream right now, that like entire sound is just gonna be more popular. It doesn't matter if it's like a local artist or if it is Cardi B. It's just the fact that we're able to listen to New York drill in that kind of fashion, and people are trying to consume that more because it's mainstream. There's just gonna get more play. Or it might be like something I noticed, like a lot of artists out of like Houston are using like chopped and screwed stuff at the end of their songs, kind of like going back to their roots from Houston. So like that could be that might be mainstream, or like on the come up of mainstream. We might start seeing a lot of people adding chopped and screwed bits, or like just kind of samples and stuff like that in there. You even had Travis Scott doing on a couple of his more recent songs and albums. So it might be just one of those things that we just have to look at holistically and say like, what is mainstream?
It's interesting that you mentioned Houston in their upcoming sound, because as this YSL investigation continues to play out, it's sort of leaving a huge void in hip hop, at least. And so obviously, the sound is going to shift. Now, whether that shifts up to New York again, remains a question. But I'm still pretty bullish on Houston sound, because, like you said, there are a lot more people adding in that slowed version at the end of their songs. And so, for anybody out there that is curious where new music is coming from, definitely check out the composers out of Houston. Some people that I recommend personally: Lil Playa, Racer. Who else am I thinking of? Iris, shameless plug, but but yeah. So cool. So as we come down to the final bit of the podcast, what have you been listening to recently? I know you get into it a little earlier into the podcast, but as far as composers or songs, what have you been kind of playing on repeat?
Lots of Tina Marie, okay. Always 24/7. She might be my most listened to artist this year. One of my favorite underground rappers, Anonymous. He's more on the lyrical, conscious side. Does a lot of stuff with Denzel Curry. So if you like that kind of sound or that kind of style, definitely give him a look. The Houston scene, so Iris, Lil Playa. That's hilarious. Of course, like the old school jams I talked about. Man, I don't know. I kind of I might just, every now and then I'll throw on like a random just like Spotify playlist, or like they'll have like I guess like taste finder playlist to where like they just put like a bunch of stuff you might like. So I kind of like let those go, or like if I really like a song or like the vibe of a song, I'll just try to make like a playlist or the radio out of that song, and just find like whatever matches that. But yeah, I just kind of just listen to.
Yeah, so you got a diverse taste in music. That's great to hear. And so this final question: what song describes your life in this current moment in time?
Right now, I feel like the song "Now" by Young Thug and 21 Savage. Have you heard that song before?
I don't think I have.
All right, it's basically them talking about times of the past and where they are now.
Okay.
And, you can kind of imagine the tonnage of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just being able to like kind of invest in myself, take a lot of big steps, take a lot of first chances, and just see a lot of success right now. It makes those times where you might have been grinding, or like you don't really think that things are gonna pan out, or you're really just taking that risk and you don't know if it's gonna work, or you might have just thrown like $300, $400, $500 away trying to chase a dream or make something happen that it's not 100% chance, but just a lot of stuff that's just been lining up, small dubs, I guess, that are big, that are coming up to like one big dub. So, yeah, just a lot of stuff right now. I guess that's what describes my life.
Okay, cool. So, where can people find your work? Any place that you want to direct people to get in contact with you? Just say a couple words.
All right, everybody. Like I said, I'm a photographer and videographer, so follow me on Instagram at Khoreyography, Khoreyography. I'm gonna write that out. And then as the content creator side, chef_KO. You can follow me on YouTube, follow me on Twitch. We're streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Your favorite content creator like me, so might as well just jump on the wagon.
All right, man. That takes us out.
All right, thanks for having me.